In the land of the rising sun, hopefully Mercedes could rise to the occasion to lift their 6th consecutive Constructors' World Championship, as they could do it this weekend, and they will match Ferrari, which are the most successful constructors, after they won back in 1999 all the way to 2004. Now the Silver Arrows, oh my word, they have been in Formula 1 for so little time, but they've achieved so much. Heading into Japan, they've actually won the last 5 editions of this race, split between Lewis Hamilton and their then 2016 world champion Nico Rosberg. They've achieved so much, and they could finally do it this weekend. Now, I love this part of the season when we get to the part where, drivers and constructors can be won. Of course, the drivers can't be won this weekend, but as I say, the constructors can do. We'll get into talking about that in a little bit. Possibly that could happen. It could also extend Lewis Hamilton's chance of winning the drivers into next round, which is Mexico. But yes, we'll have to see what happens after that. After a so-so race in Russia, Formula 1 heads to Japan, hoping for a lot more action in one of the best circuits, one of the best races in my opinion. The only figure-of-8 circuit on the calendar, one of the oldest tracks in the world. It's hosted all but 4 of the Japanese Grand Prix run-ins in the past. No run-off areas, it's all gravel. Trust me, I know I always spin off in the games. But before we get into the preview show, of course, let's run through the standings in the table after the Russian Grand Prix. Lewis Hamilton is on 322 points, the championship leader, going for number 6, of course. Valtteri Bottas is in second place with 249 points. The should-have-been winner of the Russian Grand Prix, Charles Leclerc, is on 215 points in third place. Max Verstappen is in fourth place with 212 points. Sebastian Vettel is in 5th place with 194 points. Pierre Gasly, the Toro Rosso driver, is in 6th place with 69 points. Carlos Sainz is in 7th place with 66 points. Alexander Albon is in 8th place with 52 points. Lando Norris is in 9th place with 35 points. And rounding off the top 10 is the Renault driver of Daniel Ricciardo with 34 points. Equal to his teammate is Nico Hülkenberg in 11th place with 34 points. 12th place is Danny Kvyat with 33 points. Tied with him also is Sergio Perez in 13th position with 33 points. Kimi Raikkonen is in 14th position with 31 points. Kevin Magnussen is in 15th position, the Haas driver, with 20 points. Lance Stroll is in 16th position with 19 points. Roman Grosjean is in 17th position with a woeful 8 points. Antonio Giovinazzi is in 18th place with 4 points. Robert Kubica is the last point scoring driver in 19th place with 1 point. And of course, George Russell sits at the back of the table, or the back of the grid rather, with 0 points. I always keep saying that he should score points. He really should do. Hopefully this can change. To be honest, this track hasn't been that bad for the Williams, but we can't compare Williams to other years because this year is really a bad year for Williams. Anyway, yeah, so let's get into the preview show. Of course, I absolutely love this track. A great spectacle to watch. Incredibly hard for the drivers. Again, they say this one is very physically demanding in terms of concentration as well. 3 sectors that are all quite different. The first one, I would say it's kind of like Maggots and Beckett's-esque. A lot windy. You can't really be on the curbs, that you'll spin out. High and low speed. It's really hard to judge. Of course, the second sector, quite common to your normal circuits. And then the third sector, of course, is a really, really fast one. You got 130R, the Dunlop chicane. It's really great to watch. As I say, gravel either side of you, no run-off areas. The circuit length here at Suzuka is 5.8 kilometres with a 53 lap race ahead of us that estimates at 307 kilometres raced by the drivers. This is the 35th edition of the Japanese Grand Prix and the 31st at Suzuka, which I believe that the other 4 were raced at the Fuji Speedway, the most recent being in 2007. Pole position has won 50% of the time here at Suzuka. There's been 15 wins from pole position, estimated at around 50%. 26 wins from the 2 drivers that sit on the front row, which is about 86.7%. 15 different drivers have won at Suzuka over the entirety of the racing here at the Speedway. McLaren and Ferrari are tied with the most wins at Suzuka with 7 wins each now. McLaren have been really nowhere. Ferrari have been catching up. Mainly it's been Mercedes, so yeah, you wouldn't really remember that. But as I say, Ferrari really absolutely dominant towards the early 2000s. So really good from them. I'll say Mercedes have won the last 5 races here. The only difference, so Lewis Hamilton started winning in 2014. The only year that he didn't win was, of course, 2016, which was won by Nico Rosberg. And obviously those wins that came in Suzuka were the equivalent to their wins of the World Championship. So obviously if they won here in Suzuka, they will go on to win the World Championship. Well, maybe. And obviously the only exception to that is Jenson Button, who won in 2011, but of course that was Sebastian Vettel's crowning year when he became the Doppel Weltmeister. A great race to remember for that. That was the only difference, but as I say, Mercedes have been dominant here and obviously shown when they've won the championship. They also, Schumacher is tied with the most wins at Suzuka. He sits on 6, but behind him is Lewis Hamilton, who is on 5. So again, if Lewis Hamilton wins this race, 2 things could happen. Possibly could win the World Championship. I'm just joking. Of course he's going to win the World Championship. So that theory works from what I've just said. And of course, he will be tied with Michael Schumacher. So that'll be great for him. He also will take one step closer to lifting the World Championship in Mexico City. Again, I think I was one race too early for that. I was 1 race too early for the constructors. Those 3 races, which were Belgium, Italy and Singapore, definitely slowed Mercedes and Lewis's progression down, even though Lewis really wasn't a sore loser. It was mainly just Mercedes. He was just halting them trying to lift the championship. So Kevin Magnussen has his 99th race start this weekend. And speaking of 99, Mercedes can win their 99th race. So that's pretty special from them. And obviously, hopefully they might go on to lift their win their 100 in the next 4 rounds we have remaining after Japan. And there's only 3 drivers that have won the Japanese Grand Prix who are on the grid at the moment. And they are Lewis Hamilton, who of course has won here 5 times. Sebastian Vettel, who has won here, God knows, but a lot of times with Red Bull, no times with Ferrari, unfortunately, and of course Kimi Räikkönen, who has won here with Ferrari in the past. So there were a lot of stats. They were given to us by the F1 Statman, pretty easy name. His link will be down in the Twitter description. So obviously, thank you very much for supplying them. Now, my predictions for the Japanese Grand Prix at Suzuka. Again, it's a very tough race. Really hard to see where the drivers will be. Comparing it to last year's race, where we had a really, really thrilling race. Russia, we can't really count anything like that. I'd say this race is a brand new race in the championship. And in 3rd place, I'm going to lock it in by saying that I'm going to predict that it's going to be the Finnish driver of Valtteri Bottas. Now, before I get into Valtteri, I did say at the start that Mercedes could win their 6th. Now, for that to happen, they have to finish 1-2. And of course, my predictions say that Valtteri will be in 3rd, so of course that can't happen. The reason I'm saying Valtteri Bottas in 3rd is that since the start of the season, Valtteri Bottas had won loads. I think he's got 4 wins, really, really strong. I remember Baku was definitely my highlight of the race that he's done this year. And since then, there's been a real decline in Valtteri Bottas. He hasn't really stood his ground. He's gone back to the normal 28. Well, I think a lot of people are saying that he's going back to the 2018 Valtteri, the Valtteri it's James kind of thing. I wouldn't say that he is, but as I say, he's just not really, performing as well. For somebody who, again, in his Beyond the Grid that he did a few weeks ago in Singapore, who said that he can beat Lewis and knows how to do it, he isn't really showing that he can in the last few rounds. Well, as every round says Baku, really. I do believe that he is on course for a win this year, but you could say that about a lot of people. I just can't see that happening this weekend. But possibly he could improve and just show that he is getting a lot stronger. In 2nd place, I'm going to be going for Charles Leclerc of Ferrari. Now, you wouldn't think that Ferrari were that strong around here in the past, but Charles Leclerc really, really strong. I want him to be a contender for driver of the season this year. Somebody who in the first part of the season, you would never think that he would. In the second part, you would think like, oh my God, he's actually getting there. Winner, pole position. I mean, I think he's got every pole position since... no, he hasn't. Sebastian Vettel had the pole in... no, he didn't. Charles Leclerc got the pole in Singapore, yes. So he's holding every pole position. 4 in a row, absolutely incredible from them. Obviously, that doesn't equate to the wins. He's got his race win. He's got his pole position really, really strong. Obviously, he got the 2 pole position last year in Austria and Bahrain. So really, kind of the pole, genius of this year. Obviously, 6 over Lewis Hamilton, who sits at 4. Really strong. Hopefully, it will be strong from him. Russia, not really great from that. A bit of Ferrari controversy as well. Obviously, with the team orders, who was going to swap positions. Obviously, when it was a Ferrari 1-2 before Sebastian Vettel had his MGU-K failure. But yes, I do think that Charles Leclerc will be quite strong. Okay race last year, but he was driving for Alpha, so there's not really anything to go off. But just Ferrari's domination, really. Since they came back from the summer break, everything has been on point for Ferrari, and hopefully they can continue it. And in first place, I'm going to be saying it is Lewis Hamilton of Mercedes. Now, of course, who else? Who else? It will be number 6. He will extend his lead. I shouldn't say that. Extend his lead? What's the point? He's already 322 points. But that does mean, though, that if he wins in this round, he will. He should win. If he finishes in the point, I think it's higher than 6th place next round in Mexico, he can win the World Championship. And that's what I say on the scale. Now, he has been unbelievably strong around here. The Mercedes car, the Mercedes power unit has been great. He's also a very agile driver in basically all the corners and everything that can be thrown up here in Japan. Can't see anything else going but Lewis on the top step. That would make it number 6 for Mercedes. And number 7 for Mercedes and number 6 for Lewis Hamilton. But the main thing is that what I'm saying is Valtteri Bottas will finish 3rd and they won't win the Constructors. That's a bit of a bold claim from me. I've already said it, but there we go. Then they'll have to just win it in Mexico. Go back to, I believe it was 2014 when they won the drivers and the constructors in the same race, which doesn't happen very often. Normally the constructors is won before the drivers. But there we go. Anyway, there are my predictions. Valtteri Bottas, Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton. Of course, leave your predictions down in the comment section below. If you are new to this channel, first welcome. And of course, we do run a prediction league, which we do via Twitter and all of our different social media platforms. So, the way that it works is if you are brand new, or even if you are playing along and just want to recap of the rules, leave the top 3 down in the comment section below. You can also put them on Facebook. You can also put them on Twitter, any of our social media platforms. You can also change them as many times as you want. We will accept your final kind of submission, and everyone can submit 10 minutes before the Japanese Grand Prix lights out. So that's 6 UK time. 10 minutes before lights out, you can keep submitting them, but obviously we will only take your final submission. If you do submit once and it's after the 10-minute warning, possibly when the 4th light is illuminated, you won't be entered, but you may still be charged. So yes, make sure that you play along with our prediction league. I know it's a little bit smug, but I'm in the lead. So yes, play along. I think we've got about 40 people playing along. We have different leagues as well, F1, F2, F3 and F4. So yes, just let us know. It's completely free to do. Really quite fun. You get more interactive with us. So yes, play along. Yes, it should be a very good one for Japan. Yes, so you'll leave your predictions in the comments below. So there are my predictions. Let's pass over to Jordan and let's hear what he has to do say about his top 3 in Japan. He will also give you his teams to watch this weekend for the race in Suzuka.
So my top 3 then for the Japanese Grand Prix. Now, I'm hoping for that we get a similar kind of race as to what we got last time out in Russia. Not the most exciting of Grand Prix, but very interesting to say the least. The past Grand Prix since we came back from the summer break have been excellent, and I'm hoping Japan does kick things off and keep the ball rolling for these brilliant Grand Prix. I do know that there is like a typhoon kind of in the area of Japan threatening to suspend or even abandon the Grand Prix itself. Let's see how that pans out. It's an early one for us in the UK. I think it's a 6:10 start in the morning. So yes, better set my alarms and everything like that. So getting up for work during the week early and then getting up for this Grand Prix. That is dedication for you. I know there are people out there who are like, hang on a minute, 1-2 races do you get up for? We get up early for every Grand Prix, which hugely respect everyone who actually does that. So my top 3. So in 3rd place, I'm going to go with Sebastian Vettel. Vettel was very unlucky in Russia, wasn't he? It was very controversial, of course, with the team orders and stuff. And then, of course, he had that MGUK failure, retired from the Grand Prix. People were saying that he parked up there on purpose to bring out the virtual safety car, which cost his team at the race win. load of rubbish in my opinion. It was just one of those things, unfortunately, that Vettel couldn't capitalise on what was a brilliant start. Yes, he ignored team orders and all that, but Vettel was miles up the road compared to Leclerc. It was one of those things where Vettel was just faster on the day, and Leclerc couldn't do anything about it apart from complaining on the team radio. And I hope he doesn't do that this weekend, because I'm a fan of Leclerc. Don't get me wrong, I'm a big fan of his. But last week I was very last race rather, I was very angry with him. I thought, like, come on mate, like, just get your head down and go and catch Vettel. That's all you need to do. Don't be twisting on the team radio, oh, give me back the position. No, get your bloody finger out your backside and get some work done and actually go and fetch Sebastian Vettel and actually do some racing as well. But, I do respect Leclerc. I don't want to hate him, but yeah, it's just one of the things. Vettel has won here 4 times in the past: 2009, 2010, 2012, and 2013. And of course, this is where he claimed his 2011 World Championship. His second at the time, very early on as well. I think it was about 4 races to go back then. So a very special track for, of course, Sebastian Vettel, and of course for Max Verstappen as well, because he's not in my top 3, but he of course made his first appearance in FP1 here for Toro Rosso all the way back in 2014, of course. So P2, I'm going to go with Valtteri Bottas. Now Bottas has been on the podium 4 times out the past 5 races. A driver who's came off the summer break very out of form. He's already been renewed for next season, which is good news for him. But where's this Bottas 2.0 gone all of a sudden? He was brilliant at the start. Baku, sensational. I don't know where he's gone. Like, where is he? What's going on with Valtteri Bottas 2.0, as he was called? I hope he wins another race between now and the end of the season. It's going to be very difficult, I must admit. Very difficult for him. But Japan is a good opportunity to go on and beat Lewis Hamilton, his teammate, his title rival, you could say. But nevertheless, I think Bottas, he is struggling, but he found that consistent form last time out in Russia, finished in P2, did a solid job, did what you had to do, didn't put any challenge to Hamilton whatsoever, and yeah, brought the car home. And I think that's going to be the same scenario this weekend, because of course Mercedes, if they get a 1-2, win the constructors for a 6th time in a row, matching the record set by Ferrari between 1999 and 2004. Sensational record if they do get that. But Bottas has got a job to do. Race win, I can't see him winning the race altogether. I think Hamilton will probably pip him to the post for that. And if let's say Bottas is on pole position, Hamilton more than likely will either overtake him or get team orders, controversially. And of course Hamilton will then get past. So of course I'm going to say my race winner is going to be Lewis Hamilton. Yes, I think it is going to be. Now, Hamilton can't win the World Championship this weekend, like some people are claiming. The only championship that can be wrapped up is, of course, the Constructors, which is more than likely going to happen. And I even said a few races back, Mercedes will clinch the title here, and Hamilton will go on next week, or next race in Mexico, and win the World Championship there, like he has done the past 2 years in a row. So yes, Lewis Hamilton has got 5 wins at Japan 07, 2014, 2015, 2017, and 2018. And even Mercedes, right, have won every single race since the V6s came about in 2014. They've won every one. Hamilton has won all of them, apart from 2016, when his former teammate and 2016 world champion, of course, Nico Rosberg, took the checkered flag. Hamilton won in Russia. That would have boosted his confidence. He was on a low kind of patch at the time, not winning the Grand Prix since Hungary, so he's won 2 races out of 5 off the top of my head, which is bad form for Hamilton. But he hasn't even lost out in the World Championship. He's lost 2 or 3 points at max between them 5 races, where, like I said, he's only won 2 of them. So, like I said, he's got that championship wrapped up, and of course he's going to win it. I don't care what people say, or what Hamilton says and Toto Wolff says. We could, Hamilton this, and yeah, playing down our chances here and there. Just admit, you know it's in the bag. You're going to win both championships for a 6th time. Hamilton overall, Mercedes in a row. Crazy, absolutely crazy. And actually, right, here's a little stat for you, right? The last driver to win the Japanese Grand Prix that didn't win the World Championship that year was Jenson Button, all the way back in 2011. Since then, Vettel went on to win the next two races in Japan, 12 and 13. Hamilton 14 and 15, Rosberg 16, Hamilton 17 and 18. Which I think this trend will kind of keep on. We know Hamilton's going to win the championship. Therefore, with this kind of form, that kind of stat, I do believe he will win the Grand Prix easily. Easily does it, as the saying goes. So yes, my top three: Sebastian Vettel P3, Valtteri Bottas P2, Lewis Hamilton P1. And as always, like I'm sure Lyle mentioned before, leave your top three in the comment section below to be entered in our prediction league. Round 5 this weekend. And of course, you can go follow us on our Twitter at F1_tier16 to go and find our pinned tweet. Tweet your predictions under that. And of course, our Facebook page as well. It's just the F1 Debate Show. Go and find us on there. Give us a like if you are visiting there. And of course, just post your predictions underneath the post that you will see. You'll see it like, post your predictions underneath this post about your top three for the race as well. And of course, good luck for anyone that is entering. And you have until 10 minutes before lights out to enter. If you make a prediction after those 10 minutes, you will not be entered. And of course, obviously your prediction won't be counted and verified, as the saying goes. So yes, my top three: Vettel third, Bottas second, and Lewis Hamilton in P1. So now when it comes to ones to watch, there's only really one team, or one group, if you like, that really you have to watch this weekend. And that of course, is Red Bull. Now, why, you ask them, why Red Bull this weekend? Well, not so much the team, but the engine supplier, Honda. It's their home race. And Red Bull took a penalty for all the Honda power units last time out, both Toro Rossos and both Red Bulls, to have a spick and span, brand new, fast, clean engine for the Japanese Grand Prix, which is a big tradition for Honda, having a brand spanking new engine in the back of their cars for their home Grand Prix. And why not? Now, you probably, well, if you did watch my part as well, you're probably thinking, well, hang on a minute, you're choosing Red Bull as the one to watch, but you're not putting them in your top three, Jordan. What's your logic behind that? Well, Red Bull, since coming back off the summer break, have been a bit off form. Like, Verstappen was the man to beat. He was the talk of the town at one stage. Everyone was like, Verstappen this and Verstappen that. It was crazy. It was Max Mania again. Then all of a sudden you come back off the summer break. All right, fair enough. Spa and Monza. Yet Red Bull weren't never going to do good there anyway. But Singapore, where was the car in Singapore? They were miles off the pace. I mean, Ferrari just turned up and surprised everybody. Then Red Bull were just left kind of third best, really. In third place, third fastest. It was a bit of a shock. I don't know what was more shocking: the fact that Ferrari got their act together in Singapore, or that Red Bull was so poor in Singapore. Russia, yeah, well, it's more of a power circuit, but Red Bull did all right there. They did better than what people thought they were going to do, I suppose. But what can they expect at a track at Japan? Some relatively fast parts of the track, like the Sector 3, that's very quick. Obviously 130R, the big long left-hander. Of course, and you get that like the Mags and Beckes kind of similar kind of section. And yeah, so I think Red Bull might be strong in the first sector, but when it comes to the last sector, that time that they gained in the first sector they might lose it out in the last sector. So come qualifying, maybe they might surprise a few people. They might get a P3 in qualifying or even a P4. But really, I can't see Red Bull doing anything spectacular this weekend. And I know that they will be trying their best because it's Honda's home race, but Red Bull are just out of form, and they will want to correct this, of course. But I just can't see it happening. For me, the best chances of winning another race will be Mexico, because Verstappen's won there the past 2 years. Red Bull are always strong in Mexico. It's it's high altitude. It's like I think it's the highest above sea level. The highest above sea level, as like I said before, compared to anywhere else that we go on the calendar. So Red Bull do always perform there. Japan, not so much. Red Bull have won here 4 times, I think, in the past. 09, 10, 12, and 13, I think they have won here. So, yeah, haven't won a race since 2013 at Japan. So, relatively poor if you want to say it like that. But yeah, I think Red Bull might surprise a few people. But really, I am playing down their chances, if I'm totally honest with you. And of course, another team I'm going to be watching out for is my boys, McLaren. new Mercedes deal. Looking forward to that. What can they do this weekend? Now, the reason why I'm saying McLaren is because Carlos Sainz is very, very close. He's only 3 points behind Pierre Gasly, who is in P6. Now, if Carlos Sainz gets a very good result this weekend, overtake Gasly for P6, what an achievement for a guy like Carlos Sainz. He's been he's a driver that's been, I don't want to say underrated, but he hasn't really been talked about that much. And I think we need to give him a lot of credit. And I'm talking driver of the season kind of bracket. Now, I know you might be a bit like, I don't know about that one, Jordan, but I think for me, Carlos Sainz has been so good this season that certainly you've got to put him in that category of considering to put him as driver of the season, or at least one of the drivers of the season, because he's done so well in that McLaren. And if he finishes in P6, best of the rest. I mean, round of applause for Carlos Sainz, but he has got Alex Albon catching him very, very slowly, because Albon, now in the Red Bull, a lot faster than the McLaren, and I think he's only like 20 or even 15 to 20 points behind Carlos Sainz. He isn't that too far away. So, but I think for me, Carlos Sainz hopefully will have a good weekend. Lando Norris, yeah, I like Lando Norris as well. I think he'll do well this weekend. He's on good form, isn't he? He's scored some decent points in Russia, and of course, Carlos Sainz trying to continue this good McLaren form. And like I said before, Mercedes could wrap up the constructors this weekend. Let's see if they do that. But anyways, guys, wherever you are watching in the world, hope you enjoyed the Japanese Grand Prix. Hope it doesn't get called off. But for what happened in 2014, if we do get a repeat of that, then let's hope for that sake that the race doesn't go ahead due to safety. But fingers crossed, let's hope it goes ahead. Wherever you are watching in the world, enjoy. And yes, back to the studio, Lyle.
Well, you can't say anything wrong with those predictions. Mercedes will, of course, lift the World Championship if that is right. The lonesome Ferrari on the podium. Now, of course, Jordan said that Honda, it's first time powering Red Bull, and of course it is a engine manufacturer's home race. Now, he said Red Bull, of course, it's the first time that they will be going to Suzuka under the Japanese power, but I'm going to stick with the team that's been powered for them for 2 years, and that, of course, is Toro Rosso. Now, basically, after the wars of McLaren Honda were in a kind of a grit in the teeth. They were really nervous and anxious. When they signed with Red Bull, or they was partially signed, and then they were going to go with Toro Rosso for 1 year, which was last year, and kind of, dip the toe in and see what it was like. And then, obviously, if they liked it, if Christian Horner liked it, he would then sign it to go with Honda. So this is how Toro Rosso Honda actually went last year. So obviously it was Pierre Gasly and Brendan Hartley. Pierre Gasly finished 11th place. Brendan Hartley finished in 13th, which I know isn't great, but it was still progression from them. Throughout the season, they had some good performances. I believe this actually was the first appearance of Pierre Gasly in the year before that, when he was a test driver. But yeah, still, good performances from them. In Russia, 14th and 12th, 14th position for Pierre Gasly and 12th place for Daniel Kvyat. Again, they really need to be performing a lot better here in their home race. Toro Rosso, a really good team to watch. Pierre Gasly sits in 6th place with 69 points. Carlos Sainz, though, is breathing down his neck, 7th place with 66 points. Of course, he is within a chance of catching Sebastian Vettel. Sebastian sits in 5th place with 190... No, he can't. But of course, Pierre still sits with some of his Red Bull points, or should I say lack of. I think he's actually scored more points with Toro Rosso than he did with Red Bull, but don't quote me on that. I think he has, actually. But obviously, he said that he's settled into the team as well. I do feel like Singapore, great race from him, one of his standout races. And of course, yeah, Russia, not too bad. Both of them just outside the points, but yeah, still showing progression. Hopefully it should be a good race for them. Home race, as I say, for Toro Rosso Honda, but they also have the second one of Red Bull Racing to really watch out for. It should be a good track to suit Toro Rosso, actually. The chassis is pretty good. I would say it's actually different to Red Bull. So where Red Bull kind of favour the Austrias and the what else, like the Mexicos and the mid to low level speed tracks with more corners and the chassis kind of green kind of chassis, the best chassis tracks That's where Red Bull shine. Actually, Toro Rosso can kind of go a lot further and say that, well, no, we do a little bit better with speed. We can kind of outperform you, or we should do. The only track that probably wasn't true for Red Bull was Singapore, but apart from that, they've really been on the button. Hopefully, Toro Rosso can pull something out of the bag, especially now that there's talks about them becoming a lot more of an independent team. So that is a Honda track. So last year there was a lot of Honda signs around the track, so they were definitely proud of that. Another team, or the second team that I really want to watch out for, is Ferrari. Now, Japan is one of the races where I actually can't remember that much of last year about it. I kind of just, watched it and then just went out my head straight away. But what I do remember is that Sebastian Vettel, what a terrible race for him. Now, he was out-qualified by Kimi Raikkonen. He was outperformed by Kimi Raikkonen in the race. They took a 5th and 6th place after a pretty hard race for both of them. Concerned with the same guy, but yeah, bad for Sebastian Vettel. He collided with Max Verstappen going around the big curve heading into Sector 3. He picked up some damage, so did Kimi Raikkonen as well when he was battling Max Verstappen in the Dunlop chicane. Wasn't great for him, but yeah, Sebastian really, that's kind of what set off the bad run from him, or I would say anyways. Sebastian Vettel has won here in the past. Of course, they've got their new driver now, Charles Leclerc, so hopefully they can pull something out of the bag. I did see that Charles would finish in 2nd place, which, now that I've said it, it's a real hope that they can separate the Ferraris and get something good. They are the Ferraris. Separate the Mercedes and get something good out of this weekend. Sebastian Vettel, I'm not holding too much hope out there for. I want to say that he's determined. I want to say that he wants to get back out there, after his wars in Russia. But we've been saying that for a very long time, right until he took his first win since his first win since a year had actually passed since he took his last win, which obviously was 2 rounds ago in Singapore. Hopefully he will be on the charge, especially after Ferrari have now had a glimpse. It's a little bit like like when you're hungry and you have a bit of food, that makes you want to have more food. Well, now Ferrari have had a taste of winning, and Sebastian has had a taste of winning in Singapore. Hopefully that will push them to kind of make up for what should have happened in Russia, which is a Ferrari 1-2, and possibly Seb on the top step. And of course, make up for the wars that when they lost, Mercedes did capitalise on it, which of course is one of Ferrari's pet peeves, if not the biggest one. So yes, definitely 2 teams to watch out for. Ferrari also as well. Renault, I've been pretty impressed with what they have been able to bring to the table. 2 drivers, 10th and 11th, tied on points. Of course, Nico Hülkenberg again just 1 race closer to possibly leaving Formula 1 and losing his seat to Esteban Ocon. He already has. It doesn't look like he's going to be in Formula 1 for next year, so he is definitely just on a charge to try and stay in Formula 1. There has been talks of him. There has been rumours that he was being talking to Alfa Romeo, but at this point, Nico can't really, knock away teams. There's only 2 teams that he could theoretically go to now, which is Williams and Alfa Romeo. And again, we talked about that a few episodes ago with F1 Fanatics, where we talked about, where is Nico going to go, and the slim chances he has to actually stay in Formula 1. So those 2 driving for their lives. Haas are on the up. Again, this has been a track that suited them in the past. Since 2016, I think they've had a good round almost every single year. So let's hope that they can pull their good form through that. They have a lot of sponsors here in Japan as well, so it'll be a heavy watched race for Haas. And yes, a great test for the drivers. Let's see who scores points in this race. I'm also going to put my money on George Russell to score his first point for Williams, but not just the first point. I'm going to say he's going to score 2 points and get into the top 10. I believe that's 9th place, so let's go George Russell. Let's hope that you can get some good points and out-qualify Robert Kubica, your teammate, because obviously Robert is leaving Williams at the end of the season. George will hopefully be on the rise. As a Mercedes junior driver, hopefully he can get higher up on the grid. Anyways, guys, that is the end of our preview show. Thank you very much for watching. At the moment, we are at 966 subscribers. Our goal is to hit 1,000 by the end of this season. We've been doing some amazing progression, but in the last week or so, it's really slowed down. If you are new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button. Turn on your notifications as well for all of the episodes that are coming out. The episode this week, we have a Drivers Decoded, which is tomorrow, which is a special episode on Jenson Button. I know that Tom Clarkson has stolen our idea. We're coming to get you, Tom Clarkson, in Beyond the Grid, but yeah, we were there first. We actually recorded probably first before that happened. Saturday is the F1 debate show, a very special episode. We have a special guest on there. We're not going to say who it is, you'll have to find out on the day. And of course, Sunday is the review show with Jordan. He is setting an alarm, he is getting up bright and early. Thankfully, it's not me, I'll be watching the race, but possibly in bed. It's an early start here in the UK. I think it's 6 o'clock, lights out. It's either 5 or 6. Hopefully it's 6. I remember, just quickly on that note, I remember when it was 2012 and we had 3 races on the BAMF that were early morning. We had Japan, then South Korea, then India. So if I can do that, you can definitely do this race. But as again, one of the things that he said in his is that, yeah, we only have to get up for really Japan and Australia. There's some people, like if you live in, west coast of America or the east coast of Australia and New Zealand, you're going to have to get up for almost all of the races. I think when I went to Singapore, the couple that I was with, they were from Perth, and they said that I think 2 or 3 races were actually on their time zone. After that, it was all races behind time. So yeah, count yourself lucky, especially if you're in Europe or the UK. So we are making a big push to 1,000. Make sure to like and subscribe if you're new. Tell your friends about us, of course. We're trying to get there by the end of the season. Please let us do that. We really want to get there before Abu Dhabi. It's not much. It's so close yet so far. So stay tuned for all of the other episodes that we have coming out, and obviously our Japanese Grand Prix weekend content. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, guys, we'll see you later.